Hello guys, and welcome back to the last big slog of the game before a bunch of bosses. But first, of course, we had to change our outfit. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit skimpy. Skimpier than usual, I should say. Yes, I believe this is probably one of the many costumes they probably had planned for the game before they realized they couldn't cram any more costumes in. They were supposed to have a secretary costume, I believe, or a nurse costume. You know, that kind of typical fetish costume stuff. This outfit is probably my second to least favorite outfit of the game. And my god, let's get rid of those handguns because I don't know what came over me. Now, Tower of Truth is actually the last chance you have to get to see most of the enemies in the game. The only enemy that you don't see is Irenic because he's a car, basically, and I don't know how they would have managed to fit a car in this chapter. Now, I've chosen this chapter to try and show off as many different weapon combos in the game, but of course I tend to stick with what I'm more familiar with, unfortunately. But I do use pretty much every weapon in my arsenal except for the whip and the skates because I very rarely use either of them. I particularly only use the whip for stay in the air out of times, and there are only two of them, so yeah, that doesn't really get much use. And the skates I pretty much never use except for Jubileus. I don't know what happened with the targeting there, but that's really annoying because it was going to look really cool, but then I had to do this instead. Don't know how the lock-on works sometimes, to be honest. I do spend a little bit more time thinking about my weapon choices here because I pretty much just made them as I went along. I think there's one point where I just pause on the weapon screen and just don't change anything because I'm just so indecisive. When you're fighting Braves, it's important to try and keep the number down to 2, because if you let 3 of them appear on the field, then they will immediately try to... what's the word? Fusion? A la Dragon Ball Z into one big Brave, also known as a Beloved. They will try to do that, so your best bet is to either try and kill them very quickly, which they do. They are very weak to Wicked Weaves. Or you could try and disrupt their positioning. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. I just looked at it and just wasn't sure what I wanted for the next fight. I actually find that fighting Gracious and Glorious with Bayonetta is much more difficult because you get more delays because you get all that pausing from dodging all the attacks successfully. I mention this because I've been playing as Bayonetta again, and the difference between her and John is just crazy. I am completely killing everything though, very, very easily. So much so that the game actually slows down. There's like a lot of slowdown when I'm playing, even in levels where there shouldn't be slowdown. Now, I'm going to apologise in advance for the really awkward edit I do here. It turns out that, well, for one thing, this chapter introduces a lot more joys than it did previously. And the only way I could get the actual combo rank for this was to use Breath of Time. When in doubt, use Angel Weapons, use Gaze of Despair, and very last resort, use Magic. Sorry. Use Witch Time. There is nothing stopping you from using it on non-stop, not some sort of masochistic desire to do everything without Witch Time, because while it is doable, no one's going to care if you do or don't. Now, I suppose now's a good time as any to talk about the very first weapons that you get in the game after doing the very first chapter. Yes, I don't remember the name of it now. It's been a while. But yes, the guns. Scarborough Fair and All for One. Scarborough Fair obviously for Bayonetta, and All for One for Jean. Scarborough Fair obviously gets its name from a traditional British ballad, also called Scarborough Fair, and more precisely it actually comes from Yorkshire apparently. The song relates to the tale of a young man who instructs the listener to tell his former love to perform for him a series of impossible tasks, such as making him a shirt without a seam and then washing it in a dry well, adding that if she completes his task he will take her back. Often the song is sung as a duet, with the woman then giving her lover a series of equally impossible tasks, promising to give him his seamless shirt once he has finished. The ballad does actually make reference to the 4 names of the guns, which is Parsley, Sage, Thyme and Rosemary. But if you actually look closely at the guns, or if you've read about this, the guns actually have different inscriptions on each of them. The green one, which is in Bayonetta's right hand, is Parsley, and says Parsley ever joyous. It should be important to tell you guys now that each gun actually also says Scarborough Fair made by Rodan. And the inscription for each gun, which is in this case Parsley ever joyous, is underneath that. I actually couldn't find where in the Platinum Games blog this was mentioned, so I had to use the Bayonetta wiki, unfortunately. But yes, right hand is Parsley, left hand is red, which is Sage, saying Sage ever strong. The right foot is Rosemary, which is blue, and it says Rosemary, ever reminiscent. And finally the last foot has Thyme, which is white and says Thyme, ever courageous. This stage here, I don't know. Apparently, on Kamiya's commentaries, which he hasn't been posting for a while now, he mentioned that this gun was supposed to be a more bigger idea than just shooting temperance in the face. It was supposed to be in a room where you could just shoot angels willy-nilly, kind of like a in-game version of Angel Attack. And one thing I will mention, because apparently some people don't know this, is that you can reverse the controls for this, as well as the Space Harrier tribute. I don't understand why people are asking for that in the sequel when it already exists. But yes, it's there. Just go on the options and reverse the controls if reversed Y-axes are not your thing, which is like me. I got very lucky there. He was about to do his face laser, and typically what happens with his face laser, unless you know better, is you dodge once and you think you're okay, and then you get hit by the laser because it's a very big laser. So what you can do in that case is try to dodge twice, which is a bit difficult, or you can use the parry accessory to parry it completely. Parrying is a little bit safer. I did mention that I wouldn't be using Kilgore and or Slade all that much anymore because it kills things way too quickly, especially with Jean. But I'm making an exception here because this Alfheim, I don't know why it took me so long to record, but it took me a long time to record this. I did mention in the video for Kilgore that it's very good at crowd control. If you do a lot of enemy step off or the charge modifier for anything with Kilgore on it, it can knock everything away. And it tends to build up your combo very quickly. Luckily 2 autos are much easier to deal with than 3. I don't know why that was. And here my combo breaks because I was supposed to be able to jump off that auto, but it didn't happen. Tough luck though. Oh well. It doesn't matter because the combo ranks for Alfheims are not very high. Did I mention I don't like joys? Because this is how I deal with joys. Okay, joys with Jean make it particularly difficult. If you're doing them with Bayonetta and it's... okay, well... joys with Bayonetta are much easier to deal with in general, because you do get the slowdown and you get time to sort of reorient yourself, whereas with Jean it's just non-stop. But yes, can't have me using the tonfas all the time, so I'm going to go back to something a little less heavy duty. For some reason I kept thinking that there was going to be a crow up there, at least on hard, but there isn't one. It's actually the crow on normal you'll find there. But I just kept thinking it was going to be there. Now here is the first crow for hard on this chapter. Pretty obvious, this one. Now, Bayonetta and Luca both mentioned the language of flowers in reference to rosemary, which means remembrance. Anyone with any idea of what rosemary looks like knows that rosemary is not a flower, it's actually a herb. But the idea of herbs and flowers having languages or meanings is not new, it's actually quite old. And people for a long time used to actually use flowers, bouquets of flowers or herbs to send meanings or to send messages to people. I think in kind of a passive-aggressive way. For example, a posy of thyme, mint and sorrel would convey affection. red rose isn't particular, or a single red rose means true love, but if you send a yellow rose instead, that practically means the friend zone, for example. So we have parsley, which means feasting or festivity, useful knowledge, rosemary for remembrance, which is one thing they got right, or your presence revives me, sage meaning domestic virtue or wisdom, and thyme for energy and affection. The meanings of these herbs is all referenced in the little inscriptions on the guns. I would probably rank Justice as probably the second worst boss to fight, mainly because of that attack he does where the face snake, I'm gonna call it, just suddenly flops around on the edge. Okay, I'm trying to make the sound not weird, but it's sounding totally weird to me. The attack where he basically can do pretty much instantly without any indication, and it will stagger you or hit you hard. I hate that attack. But anyway, the very last crow you will collect on non-stop. And with that crow, we've finished our collection. We do have now all 51 crows. Of course, I haven't actually shown you the last crow on hard, but that's coming up very soon. And we still have 2 achievements to collect. You will basically get all 101 Umbran Tears of Blood through just naturally through 100% in the game. So finishing the game on normal, hard, then non-stop, and yeah, that's all you need to do. The bare minimum, if you do that, you don't have to get platinum or anything, you just have to finish it. And you will get all the Umbran Tears of Blood. This is a game that likes to reward persistence, I think. I did mention this game, this chapter throws a lot of joys on you. On normal, this bunch here is just a bunch of flaming affinities, I believe. And these joys really do like to respawn. I think they respawn at least 2 or 3 times this entire verse. Which in some ways is good because it lets you do more combos, and therefore you get more combo points, but it's bad because you might not get the time. Although I have very rarely not gotten the platinum rank time. For me, the only way to deal with joys is the sword. It kills them quick. Really quite contrast in how much combo points you get for this. I was playing Bayonetta today, as Bayonetta, on non-stop, and I was playing through Vigrid... God, what is that chapter called? God, I cannot remember at all. It's the 3rd chapter. The one where you can get a crazy amount of combo points, and even on non-stop I was able to get 4 million total. It's a little bit frustrating when you're playing a Jean and you only get a piddly so-and-so thousand. But I haven't talked about Jean's version of the handguns, which is called All for One. All for One is a reference to The Three Musketeers, which is a French novel by Alexandre Dumas. It was set in the 17th century and recounts the adventures of a young man named D'Artagnan after he leaves home to travel to Paris to join the Musketeers of the Guard. D'Artagnan is actually not one of the Musketeers in the title. Those are his three friends, Athos, Porthos and Aramis, who are inseparable friends who live by the motto, all for one, one for all. I tried to say that in French, but I'm pretty sure I'd butcher it because I did not take French. Anyway, those four names, Athos, Porthos, Aramis and D'Artagnan, are the names of Jean's four guns. Very last crow in the LP. And with that, you have all 51 crows. Jean's guns are actually based on the Luger, I believe. I think it's a German gun. But again, I'm not going to try and embarrass myself by talking about stuff that I don't know, like guns. But the motto, all for one and one for all, is visible on the firearms in French. And also the original French title of the book is visible on the guns. I'm not really sure where, but the Bayonetta wiki said it was there. It's not very obvious here, but this fight with the golem is incredibly slowed down. And you think it wouldn't really make a difference to your gameplay, but it really does, because what it mainly does for me is that the rate at which you would normally dodge attacks is not the same. So what I sometimes end up doing instead of dodging is turning into a panther. And for the record, you actually cannot turn off that ability. When you get it in the Lost Holy Grounds, it's with you forever. This is actually different from the bird ability, the fly ability, or bat within, in that you can turn those off, but you can't turn off panther within. It's a little bit annoying, because sometimes I do accidentally turn into a panther. I think I mentioned when we first met Golem in... Ooh boy. This is like some sort of trip down memory lane for me because I cannot remember the names of half the chapters. But when we first meet Golem, I did mention that the combo rank for his fight was kind of high. Not so much the case with this one, at least. And you do get a fair amount of combo points for doing the torture attack at the end, which is... It shows up every time you meet a Golem, practically, so... At least you can count on that for some combo points. This fight, not all that difficult. The only problem I have with it is that sometimes the crumbling building below you gets in the way of things. It's not so much an issue with this guy because he has very obvious audio cues, but it's still a pain in the ass sometimes. And the combo rank for this isn't that high. I think it's about 1200 or so. But if you do think that you haven't got enough, you cannot reset at this point. Because at this point, they've checkpointed you at the point where you run up the building. Because yes, you can die in that fiery blaze apparently. And with that, we've pretty much finished this chapter. I don't think the angel script floating around here has ever been translated. At least I'm not aware of it. And it's hard to tell what it says because at least demon script kind of looks like the English alphabet. Angel script doesn't look like anything. But yeah, that's the last hard slog in the game. And after this we have 2 bosses.
It's a celebration, bitches.
I think this chapter is a little bit longer than the Lost Holy Grounds. It just feels a lot longer somehow. But yes. Thank you guys for watching. And join me next time when I beat up an old man. See you guys.